Hi everyone, Alex is here, and today we'll be talking about cicd. What's that? How we can make that? How we can work with GitHub Actions and with Docker? How we can create at least some kind of CD and CI? So, how does it work? Let's finally get it. What is CI/CD? CI/CD is continuous integration and continuous deployment or continuous delivery. So it depends, and we'll be talking about that, why it depends and how does it work. But firstly, when do you use it? Mostly, right now, always. So all the things that when you're programming, you should understand that when you're making something on your computer, it should also be run on the server, and it should be running the same as it is running on your computer. So if you have, for example, different operational systems, it shouldn't matter. Your application should work fine in both of that places. So how does it work? Before that, you should understand that mostly right now, you're always using CI/CD. And let's start with CI. CI is continuous integration. What does it mean? It means that you have integration with something. Basically, when and what. So basically, it's testing. It's testing if your environment is right, if your credential works, if your application just can be built because maybe you'll just run it on the server and it will be crashed and all of your server will be done. So that's the problem. So basically, CI is automated testing integration that helps you to understand if your code will work. That's the thing. Also, sometimes there are some integrations with migrations, with creating feature branch that can help you to test your specific feature. All the things are with integration. And once more time, basically, mostly, you're working with testing when you're talking about continuous integration. So, and mostly it's tests about building your application. So if your application just can be built, because sometimes you can use the library that can be supported in your machine but cannot be supported on a server machine. And when you're running that on a pipeline, you'll instantly discover it. What is pipeline? Pipeline basically it's in each of the system, for example, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, or any others, you'll see that pipelines are the place when all of these integrations are working. So all these integrations are jobs that they should do. And each of the job will give you success, warning, or error, one of the three. Sometimes it can be skipped or manual, like such things, but basically it's these three. And why you will be using that? To be sure that your app works correct. And after that, we have continuous delivery and continuous deployment. An idea here that after success tests, you can deploy that on your prod environment, test environment. So in general, you can build that. So the process when you're sending your bunch of application to your server to run, to build a thing, that calls continuous delivery and continuous deployment. The difference here, that continuous deployment makes that automatically, while continuous delivery makes that manual. What is manual here? Manual here is that you should verify that this action is right for you, that you're sure that this will work and you're agreed to deploy these changes. That's how it works. So basically, when you can discover these two changes, it's not the thing that you can combine. Basically, that's the thing that you will choose. You'll choose or continuous deployment or continuous delivery. And let's discover the easiest way how you can do that. you have test environment of your web application where QAs can test them out and be sure that everything works. So you have your develop branch. When you make commit to that one, it's automatically always nearly using CI. So it discovers if your application can be built, if all of the credential environments are working, and all of the packages are installed, so it can also run all of the packages that are new, for example. That's how it works. So it's integration, so it is basically testing, discovering if that can be in general built or if it cannot be built, because if it cannot be built, you will just lay down your server if it will be delivered. And CI helps you to understand that this thing, for example, doesn't work and it won't be delivered. So your remote branch for your testing purpose or prod environment won't be laid down. That's the important thing. That's why CI helps us to be sure that your app at least will be run. The next thing, delivery and deployment. When you're working with test environment, basically you don't need to approve all of your comments, because you can have, for example, 20 changes during the day. And it can be 20 or more commits, and you should not just click and every time say agree, because you will be nearly every time agree for your changes in test environment. And when it was tested, you can send it to your master branch. You can work with other programmers. They can also send their changes. And when you're making release day, something that can go to production, you'll go with continuous delivery. What will do continuous delivery? You should manually run pipelines, so run a bunch of jobs that will test your application and deliver it to main server. And there, you should always manually approve that you agree these changes to go. Basically, managers and team leaders, tech leaders sometimes, checks the code that other developers has done. They're checking if it's correct, basically, if it should be how it approximately works, so they can be sure that these changes can go. They're approving that. And that makes them to be, to take confident that this thing can go to production. And when you're clicking approve, changes are going. Because if you won't control when your changes go into production, you'll have problems. Firstly, it can go during the busy time of your users, because basically when you're making delivery to production, you should discover the less active time of your users. Then you're making requests, because basically sometimes such thing can just lay down your server and you'll lose a lot of money. And that's why for such accident, you'll always take in the last time for people are coming to your place. After it is send it, server has taken that. So you have updates, and you cannot take continuous deployment to production mostly, because if you'll send the changes and it will automatically run all of the CI and then CD, and it will be in production, for example, in 3 minutes after you committed something. Maybe you committed something wrong, maybe not wrong. For example, you can just mismatch the branch, and that's also okay. Such situations comes, and you should be sure that such things won't go to production, because if it will take in automatically and go further, you will be just make bad for your company, for your web application. So you should always be sure that changes will go after you will say that, only for production. And basically it's not doing like every 2 minutes. You are basically making changes to production, for example, twice a week, once a week. You can do that every day, even twice a day, but it doesn't have any purpose of that. It's better to take a bunch of stuff to test them good, and then make them go to production. So that's important. That's how it works. That's why we have continuous delivery and continuous deployment. Hope you understand that. After that, what we have? We have GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions is the place where you can use UI interface to discover how the pipelines are going, if it works okay or not. So there you will be able to discover that thing. Also, we'll take a look at this, so it's not a problem. We'll talk a little bit about Docker. So Docker was created in 2013 by the company that calls, let me check, .cloud. Yeah. So basically, an idea here was that when you have been sending with CD, for example, your changes to your remote machine, sometimes it didn't even work in that place. Why? Because you can have different operation systems. And for example, your libraries couldn't, for example, work in different places. And that's why Docker was created. Docker basically is the place where you're taking your changes to a container. So basically it's a folder that takes a lot of changes that you don't see, but when you're taking that to your machine, it also should have Docker. It takes some internal process that makes no difference between your computer and their computer. That's Docker system. So Docker idea is to take your operation system, their operation system, and make that works. So it won't be a problem. You're working on Mac, you're working with Linux coworker, and your deployment will be on Windows machine. It doesn't matter. They can have different memories, different processors. That doesn't matter. Docker, with their technology, will make all of that to work in the same. How? You can discover Docker more, or we can talk about Docker a little bit later. But that's an idea of there. And that's why Docker mostly are using with this integration. So it takes with GitHub Actions, so it is going from one place to another job, and then it finally, for continuous delivery, continuous deployment, it will go to your Docker container that will update in the repository and be automatically taken on server machine, or manually taken on server machine, how you want. So that's how it will work. And today we'll discover how we can create a basic server, basically send your GitHub Actions and send all the changes to Docker machine. So afterwards we can just pull the things, update our server and go further. Because, for example, server can take a notification that your repository on Docker was updated. So we can pull the changes and update them. That's how it works. So basically, if we discover that question, I think that hopes that you understand all of the things. One more thing, that don't think that GitHub Actions was the first thing, how it just helped you to discover your pipelines, jobs, and discover all the things have been working. No. Before that, there was Jenkins, Travis CI, was also Circle CI, but with GitHub Actions, just make a population of CI/CD as code. Basically, when you can configure your pipelines, that will go further. Because before that, you should just take in that UI to discover where should what go, and it was sometimes complicated. So right now it has a code, and you can just copy that thing to different places of your projects, and it can work the same. Because basically when you're working in a big company especially, you have a lot of projects and they should deploy it in one way. So that's how it works. And let's start discovering code. One of the most interesting things here. Here we are. Our project as usual, our CLI, our SRC, everything for you to be sure how does it work. So basically, firstly, before that, you should be sure that you have Docker installed. For example, in my case, it's Docker Desktop. I have my own account, so just also create your account. It's quite simple to use, and with that, we can go further to discover how it can be done. So, let's start. We have our CLI, and we have here 5 things that we should work on with. Firstly, npm install. Why should we use it? Because we have src folder with our applications and with our files. So basically we have package.json that will take only Node.js start, and that's why we just should to have for our local machine. So we should go to cd src. We can also write it here, so you'll know that we can write it here, and we'll then just npm install our changes. So we'll have package.json, we have just package.json log, and basically like some of the basic things for us to run our Node.js server. Let's go further. When we have that, we can just run our server to discover if it works. So we are just running our Node.js. So we can go here. We can write a localhost. So yeah, so we have hello from automated work of cicd context. And we're just using simple express with application, with port, with getting your port and listen on that. So nothing so complicated here. But let's discover what we have here more, because these things aren't so interesting. So index.js is understandable, package logs, so just some files that we have imported to work with our Node.js for Express, our package log.json that takes this Express dependence, our node model, so that's nearly not so interesting. But what we have interesting here? We have interesting, for example, git ignore. What is git ignore? It helps us not to send for our remote repository some folders and files. And basically, you should never send your node models because they will be automatically created on your changes, and in general, they will just run package.json in our cicd, so you will see. And yeah, so that's how it works. So just git ignore is just simple way to not send your files to some place. And let's also stop our server here. Let's go further here. So we have our node models, it's okay, and we have Dockerignore files. Dockerignore files is the file that should not go to our Docker machine, to our container, so they shouldn't be in the server and they shouldn't be in our machine. Why? Why they shouldn't go to our machine if this is the thing that we want to do? Basically, env have been created on their machine manually, and sometimes you're just running that basically into the machine, some environments, and you're not always take that environments automatically. Sometimes they should be done manually because it's quite sensitive information. Node models, because they will be just built by the server with npm install. That's why you shouldn't send it even. And npm debug log, because debugger will be mostly for local machine, for local changes, for local deployment and testing. That's why you should not send it. Let it be their changes, its login system, but you shouldn't send it to your server. That's weird. And that's always our not so important files. And here we have two files that we should work on with. But before that, let's discover what we have in our CI. After running the server, we can create our app. What is this app? So basically, we'll copy that, we'll copy that, we'll paste that. We'll see that our application is being created, and we have fatal error, failed to resolve source not authorized. Okay, let me check it out. So it finally works, as you see. On speaking, everything was very, very simple. It just looked at me from my account, and I just wrote it Docker login. You can see it here, and it was taking me for my account, and then it was just telling that you should open the browser, and there was a field where I was just able to put the code, and we put that, and it was all login successful, and just Docker build app, and it would just build all the things, and that's all. And how does this Docker build has been working? So basically, when you're writing Docker build my app, you're just creating an app in your container. So your container app will be calling my app. That's That's quite all. But here, how we can work with it. So firstly, we have the thing that calls Dockerfile. Dockerfile helps all the containerized places to understand how you can run your application so it will be able to be run on the server. So basically, this file will tell how it should be run on the server, so it will be all unique. So firstly, we're taking our Node 18 alpha version, so it's lightweight, it's more being used for productionalizing, but here we are also using that. And we're creating the folder that calls app, because we can have a lot of the directors, we can have a lot of the applications or backend stuff, and we should just create folders for them. So just slash is just our root folder, and slash app will just create an app, and we'll be working there. Then we're copying our package.json and package.json log file to our dependencies. Why we're taking that first? Because mostly you're not changing that. They're mostly all the same. And if you're telling that these specific files should go to your app, when you will run your cd integration, they will go to the server. Sometimes package.json can be cached, and that will be good, because it won't double, like the second time takes all the changes, especially if you have a lot of libraries. So basically, it's the thing that helps us to understand, firstly, that these things should go there, and everything will be good. Then we're running npm run install. Install to discover that all of the files are installed here, and basically, once more time, you can just take this Docker file and you can run on your machine. If you would like to have a video about that, how we can pull our changes, work in Docker. Not a problem, just write me in the comments and we'll definitely make that. So, after we have done that, after we have installed all of our applications, we just have package.json, package.json log, and those bottles. Then we're copying all the rest settings. So it's in index.js, it's gitignore, it's all the other files that you have installed that that are not on Dockerignore. So all the files that are Dockerignore won't be going to our container, to our folder in our server. Then Expo 300. So this one just reserves the port, and basically it won't run our server. It just takes that this port should be reserved for our application. And then we have the thing that calls command. So basically, it's once more time, it's Docker syntaxes, and command just tells us that we are taking an array, and this each of the command that will go with a space, it will be a different item in our array. So we have node index.js, so it's the same as write node space index.js. It will be the same. And we're just saying that this command will be run on our remote machine. So this code just tells how our remote machine should work. And that's pretty all. But here is the question: how it will just get to that machine? So we have it on our computer. How it will go to remote computer? Not a problem. We have the folder that calls GitHub. So basically, it should be with a dot. So it will be basically, it calls a hidden folder, all the folders that starts with dot. But here we'll see that because we're working on our machine. We have the folder workflows that should be called in this way, because your GitHub will automatically looking for this file. And here we'll be able to see deploy YAML. We'll be able to see a lot of them, but here is the simplest one. How does it work? That's the most interesting thing. So we have the name for our cicd pipeline that calls cicd. Then on push branches. So what does it call? On, it means something that will happen on mouse trigger, on click, or something like that. On push, so when we're taking the information from branches main. So when we're pushing our information to our main, so new code changes to main, we'll run the specific pipeline that have here. We have jobs, so we can have plenty of them, but we'll have only one. So basically, this one will be mostly like CD integration, but also we have here CI, because we'll have some checkout code, and basically, but it will just take that to, okay, I will tell you and you will understand. So basically it will be mostly for CD, but here we also can write some of the tests that are predefined in our GitHub or in our other places, or that we have created manually. So firstly, it runs on Ubuntu. We're running on what it will run, all the tests, all this job. So it can be run on different computers, different machines, but we'll be using Ubuntu, latest one. Then we have steps. Which steps we have? We have 3 steps. First, checkout code. Actions, checkout, version 3. It's predefined code with our GitHub Actions. So basically, you'll be using different places, different pipelines, different GitHub Bitbucket. They can use their different actions and their predefined one. So you can also create your own one. If you would like that, what? Just write in the comments and we'll discover that. So it's just predefined action that will take your code to something like temporary folder. Why it will take that? So it won't just erase all of the folders that you have right now. It won't immediately take these changes because maybe these changes just doesn't work. We should take them to temporary folder to test them locally in our CI or CD integration, and then we'll just able to send it. So we're just taking the to temporary folder. Then we're logging into our Docker Hub. So for Docker Hub, we're just using Docker login action version 2 is once more time. What? Yes, correctly. That's predefined GitHub action to log into our Docker system to store our record, our repository. Repository is the place where your app will be stored, just for you to know. And with this means what some additional information should be done here, because some actions can have some different required parameters. And here we should have username and passwords. That will be taken from secrets, and they will be called Docker name, username, and Docker Hub. And in such a way, we'll just say that it's the code that we should take from our store credentials. And then, after we have logged in, so everything's okay, we're not making any others checking, we're just going to our pushing. So we're just build and push Docker image, we're using push, we're using context, so we are logging in here, we're using context, we're pushing that, we're pushing where to our Docker username and the name of our application, how we're using that. We can also predefine that in variables, but I don't want to predefine that in variables. Two of the secrets are enough for you. So that will be how it will work. So basically that takes our temporary folder, it will log in, then take this temporary folder, send it to our application, and then it will erase that, so everything works. So it will like update that in our repository. It will be updated already in our repository in GitHub. So we have 2 repositories, one Docker, one GitHub. They too will be what? Right, updated. That's how it works. And the question right now is only one: how we can create GitHub repository. So basically for that, we just should go to our what? Right, GitHub. And when you log into that, we can see our dashboard. For example, you can go to dashboard. You can see the button that calls new. You will click on that, and let's create that. For example, cicd demo. You will see I have also 2 of them just to double check that everything works. So everything was working just a couple of minutes before recording, just for you to know. And right now we can make it public or private. I don't want anyone to see that, so it will be private. You can make it public or private. It doesn't matter for me at all. So we're just creating that, and voila, we have our application. We have our CI/CD is empty right now, but it will be running to the 5th page. We'll see that. But before that, also just for you to know that it works. To run our application, we're just using Docker run. We're using 400, 300. It's just to port that to Docker, and our application should run. So we're just copying that, sending, and that works. And if I'm not mistaken, one sec. Yeah, so on our local machine 400, we'll be using our port. And yes, it listens on our 300 port, but that's locally for our index folder, and it will be 300 in our Docker repository. So Docker repository, it has like its own computer and its own, how is it called? Its own ports. So it's a little bit complicated, but if you would like to have a new video about it, it will be much more easier for you. Then GitHub push. We should initialize our Git, so we'll be able to send it to our repository. We should add all of our changes, commit how we will send it, how we'll call them, like first commit. Okay, we should take the branch that calls main, like we'll just rename that to main, because right now, if I'm not mistaken, it calls master, or it doesn't call, in any case. Then we're taking our remote original branch, and we're pushing our changes. When you'll be doing that for the first time, it will be firstly taking you to work with your GitHub, so it will ask you to log in into, so it will be just open the browser where you will write your credentials. But if you don't know how to run with Git, you should download that, write your email and name, you'll see that, and basically to understand it better, we just should create a video about that. So you have a bunch of ideas for videos, just tell me what you wanted to see. That's all. Let's go further. I just killed that process because we don't need to see our Docker folder. We're just running, not Dockers. Thank you a lot. Clearing that. We just should take a bunch of these things, go to our src folder, one of the most important things, because I have already gone there and just cleared my terminal. So we're in our src folder. Put in that, just hitting enter. You can see it just created our files to our basically GitHub Git watching. Then it just sent it our changes, and here we can see our changes. And we have failed code 1 because I forgot to make our credentials. And how we can do that? We are going to settings. We're going to our secrets and variables, to actions that we'll be doing, because our actions are here, and for that actions we should have a couple of secrets. So we're managing our secrets. We have our, one sec, has no variable, no secrets, new environment. One sec, let's write the tests. Okay. I was writing that in a different way, but okay, let me, I hope that it will work. So basically here we'll call our Docker username. What is our username? You can go to our Docker hub, for example. It's here, for example, Alex Demko work for me. I'll put here. Then we can take our new environment, and we should take our Docker hub token. Right here. We'll go to our account settings. We're going to our personal tokens. And here what we have, it was auto-generated to work with our computer. And let's generate a new token. We'll call it date when the task would be done. Interesting. cicd. Expiration date. It will be custom. So you should not worry about that. You will be able to take this token. Sorry. And you're taking read, write, delete access, so we'll be able to work with that. Generate your token, copy that, here, pushing that, add secret. In general, you'll be able just to make a new commit to rerun that process, or you can just click here, go here. So that's our UICD, so it's our actions. It calls pipelines, but here in our GitHub, it calls actions. In different places, it calls in the different way, but the same as an idea. It takes our deployment YAML, and here we'll see our first commit, the pipeline that should go, but it was failed because we don't have username and password that have been required. And right now we can just rerun all the jobs. Just click rerun all the jobs. We can rerun also that one that have been failed, but in general we have only one job, so it will in any case run all of them. So, and right now we can click on that and see what is going on here. And it still says that we're required on password and username, what I was thinking about, because when I was taking these secrets, it wasn't in the way I was doing that for the first time. So let's wait, and I will say you where you should do that right. And probably I have found it. I even didn't test it for right now, but we'll be able to test that. It's interesting to me to test it with you. So we have settings, and not actions, but dependent bot. Dependabot. Yeah, I think that's the right thing where I should be. Yeah, probably 99%. Yeah, so we should take our username. We should take even our token. And yeah, I think here right now it will work. I just didn't take that to the right place. Excuse me. That's what we have. So in any case, we can go to our first commit and we can run it. Like 2 attempts has been failed. So we can click rerun the failed one. And as you can see, it's just one job that is running right now. So it is in status quit. So it is on hold. When it will be able to, like GitHub will be able to take it in process. For example, right now, it is going to in process. And why we have this problem? You know? Me not. Let me check it out one more time. Oh, what I can tell you? We can see that job is running, post checkout code, post job cleaned out. We have mark. Yeah, so as you can understand, everything has been worked good. So you can see our job. It has only 3 things, but in general, it automatically runs a couple of things. So setting up our job, check out the code, log in into our Docker, build and push Docker image, post to build and push Docker image, post log into our Docker hub. So after we have just made all the things, and post check out code. So it will be just cleaned as I told you before. Job cleaned up. Okay, temporary override before making global git config. Yeah, so and then job is just completed. We have been doing that right in the settings, in our. But when I told you that it's not something that I was remembered for, exactly because I was clicking on new repository secret, but I was clicking on manage environment secrets. So this one working, all the others, code spaces, databot, here not working because it's just different things and they're taken in a different way. But I just forgot that. Sorry, that's what we have. But environment secrets are working good. It's like just different environments for testing purpose, for not testing purpose, for prod environment, so etc. But in any case, we have seen it works and how we can check our deployment, our repository. So basically we have our, for example, Docker hub. We can rerun that. It'll be just good. And you see your repository that was just published 2 minutes ago, running on the Linux machine. And to work with that, you're just taking docker push Demko cd demo tag name, and then you're running that in this way. That's all, and your computer will run your production computer will run your server you have created. And I have told you that it works automatically. It works automatically with Kubernetes, for example, that calls architects system that helps you to take your changes on your code and automatically run it on the server. That's how it works. So we're making a good thing today. I hope that you like this. I hope that you discovered new thing for you. And of course, write your comment, tell more what you would like to know, and in any case, I will be looking for you in the next videos. Thanks a lot. See you. All of the best. Bye.